I so serious? Whee! Yoo-hoo! Snow!
Combat starts in 10 seconds.
Hey, I just plain don't like you. Snow!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let the battle begin.
More walking. Why not?
The ancient shrines awaken. Control them and let loose the Dragon Knight.
Delivery ball! Whatever your name is!
Hurry, activate the shrines and the dragon's power is yours.
Whatever your name is.
Choose a talent.
I shall reduce you to cinder.
Smile! Now that I know, I'll just leave it here.
If this fort falls, you will be
Choose a talent.
That's a fine how do you do? Got to do that anyways! Yeah!
Eliminated.
Now that was beautiful!
Soon the shrines shall awaken, heroes.
Yep, I see him all right.
Activate the shrines. Take the Dragon Knight's power.
Smile! Stop me and turn this one is on. Goes the weasel!
That was cool.
And I'm at it. Smile! Think I'll go for a stroll. Hey, where'd you go? Bye. Try not to die without me. Delivery Bob. Whatever your name is. Whatever you say.
Choose a talent.
Let's go for a ride!
Dragon Knight's power.
I'm sorry. You've been taken down.
My work here is done.
The dragon shall rest no longer. Unleash its power.
Takes a licking, keeps on ticking.
gathers within the shrine. Unleash the dragon's wrath.
Delivery ball.
Free the Dragon Knight and slaughter your enemies.
Lovely day, isn't it? One before.
They got you.
The flame cleanses all. Stay down.
Your core is under attack. Whoa, that was cool.
This hero must be dealt with.
Think I'll go for a stroll. Stop me if you've heard this one before.
Eliminated. Choose a talent.
Whatever you say.
We must retreat.
Stop me if you've heard this one before. Oh, that's a good spot.
Oh no.
The shrines are gathering power. The Dragon Knight calls from within the stone.
You go on.
The dragon awaits, heroes. Free him and destroy your enemy.
I'll just
You just lost the key.
Let's go!
The swarm endures.
So, one-night stands are essentially when you hook up with someone and never see them again, or at least never sleep with them again. And at one point I remember thinking, wow, that sounds so shallow and meaningless. It's just two people giving into raw sexual attraction with no chemistry or romance whatsoever. And then someone said, have you tried it? That hurt my feelings, but they had a point, and I think that if two people want to hook up and are responsible about it, it could be a good experience for both of them. So, first things first, you should be prepared at all times, but if you're like me and all your condoms are expired, it can be hard to decide if it's worth preemptively investing. In my opinion, you should always have at least a couple on your bedside table to keep the hope alive. And on the flip side, if you're a guy who gets around, don't try to save money or cut corners. I've heard some pretty ridiculous stories, and my friend told me that she heard of a guy who washed out a condom to reuse. That's being really stupid. Just turn it inside out. So once you're well stocked on the necessary prerequisites, you of course need to find someone else to help you make God disappointed. Whether you're meeting someone in a bar, on Tinder, or through your contact list, you have to be good at managing expectations. Even if both people agree they're just hooking up and you're on the same page. It won't be the next morning, so I like to be as transparent as possible. If she says, I don't really do this kind of thing that often, what should I expect? I'd just be honest and say, it's about like a Coke can, but a bit shorter. So if you're hooking up with someone and there's a mutual understanding that you're probably not going to see each other again, don't be afraid to try some new techniques. As an example, the other day a girl was telling me about her sexual escapades and said I should try using coconut oil if I get the opportunity. I haven't had the opportunity. One of my hands is now incredibly soft.
The battle begins shortly.
I see the gods wish to test my patience today.
Silence! There is a battle to be won. Battle begins in 10 seconds. Our vengeance will be complete. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go! Kill! Ah! Yes. I am your doing. We move. Retreat. Yes. Feel the fury of the swarm.
Defeat me 1,000 times, I will return. The conquest begins. Feel the fury of the storm. My prey nears. Choose attack. Enemies desire my power. I must retreat. Aid them. Agreed. Can you survive? We shall see. Gather gems if you wish to spare. You have lost a fault, heroes. Destroy their constructs. Reclaim the gems of my power. Show no mercy. Choose a talent. The conquest begins. Feel the fury of the swarm. Without question. All shall know my power firsthand. Without question. Now you shall pay. You're called up. Get in there.
Controlling your health.
The champions bring them only their power. As you say. My brain is. Yes. Feel the fury of the swarm.
Restoring your health. Hitting you with an angle.
Death is an inescapable web. Me 1,000 times, I will return. Now you shall pay. We should defend our enemies.
Soon we will surpass our enemies. Fight on!
Excellent work, minion. Our vengeance will be complete. Now you shall pay. You are too late. Now you will know my wrath. Come for you. Now you shall excellent work, minion. The swarm will crush you. This is my true hero, not yours. The enemy has destroyed a keep. My power wanes. Gather more gems. Erase my wrath. Your core is under attack! The swarm is eternal.
MVP.
So the act of sex itself is a very beautiful thing. Not literally, it's really gross, but the concept is there. I don't have any tips because I know my lane, but I like to think of sex like the opposite of homework. Because with homework, I've always thought, I'm not looking forward to this. It's going to be really hard the whole time, and I'm going to take forever to finish. At least I'll be glad I did it. So when you wake up the next morning, the first thing you have to think about is the repercussions of what you just did. Your friends find out about it, you have to be ready for what they might say. So if you're a girl, you'll probably be hearing a lot of, Amanda, what were you thinking? And if you're a guy, you'll probably be hearing a lot of, dude, nice. In addition, you might wake up thinking, oh my god, I thought we were just hooking up, but what's this weird feeling I have? Maybe I've caught feelings. It's probably just chlamydia, so play it. Cool. After mentally processing that, it's time to check on the other person in your bed. And this is a major turning point because if either of you had a good time, it's easy to get attached. So when you roll over and look, you'll see one of three scenarios. They're there, they're not there, or they were never there. So plan ahead for each situation, whether you'll be trying to avoid their calls, trying to call them, or just doing laundry and repainting the ceiling. Alright, so having been a dev for a good minute or two, I thought I'd make a tutorial to help you guys create the most basic simulation, which is of course known as Hello Universe. This program obviously isn't too complex, but it's got everything you need to be able to integrate yourself and play through on the planet Earth as the human player type. Okay, so I'm going to be using Google's online development simulator for most of the project because it has a user interface and Google pretty much owns me, but feel free to use your simulator of choice. Okay, so go to new file and we'll name it Hello Universe, and it'll ask us for the game speed. It's just how quickly players experience the passage of time in your simulation. I'm going to base this on the speed of light. Doesn't really matter what you choose, I just usually prefer to code in C. So the first thing we have to do is import all our planets, stars, galaxies, and all the characters, so make sure you've downloaded the asset library. Most of the universe is going to be empty, so storage won't be a problem. That's why we call it space. So most things in the universe are procedurally generated by the computer over millions of years, but when someone integrates into your simulation, you have to designate who they're going to play as. Some devs like to make the playable characters in their own image, but if you saw what most developers look like, you know how bad of an idea that is. Instead, I like to design a joke character that players might like, but nature would of course never allow. Yeah, just import that. Now, when you do more complex simulations, you can enable life for as many planets as you want, but for Hello Universe, Earth is the only planet with life on it. The players will probably never find out, so don't worry about that. There are also some other settings you can change for Earth individually. Number of players, for Hello Universe, the only real player is you. All the other players are simulated. Difficulty, this is just how hard it is for you to get through the day. Yeah. Okay, now keep in mind that simulations tend to run pretty processor heavy. You might have heard the programming quip, you need more than one thread to make the fabric of space and time. Like most niche interest jokes, I don't find it funny, but I at least understand it. Simulations use fewer resources the longer they go on for, but if you have a lot of them running simultaneously, you can free up some resources by deleting some of the older players. Okay, so next are the universe settings, and we have map size. It's how big you want the observable simulation to be when players go in. The bigger you make this, the harder it'll be for them to find your mistakes. Number of perceivable dimensions, just leave this at 4. Not much point in doing a tutorial on 5-dimensional simulations because you'd already know what that looks like. And bitrate 300,000 kilometers a second. Okay, so that's the primary programming done, so go ahead and compile that. Alright, no errors. That's unusual. At any rate, we're good to launch, but before we do, it's critical that you scrub through the timeline and check for bugs before publishing. A lot of new devs have a hard time telling the difference between a bug and poor design, so I thought I'd go through a few of the most frequently asked questions I get. My stars are collapsing after billions of years. Yeah, this is a bug and we don't have a solution, so we just make them invisible and call it a feature. What happens if the players discover the source code? This almost never happens, but I don't worry about it because most of my code is almost completely unintelligible anyway. What happens when the simulation is over? You get a screen to choose your payment method and you can see the high scores. Okay, so let's get back to our program. Go ahead and hit run, and it's as easy as that. Just remember, you can't patch the simulation once it's started, so no interaction is possible from outside the program. But you can always integrate yourself and go through as a player. Keep in mind that millions of years of game time are processed in just a few seconds, so if you choose a later point in time to integrate yourself, you can actually build another simulation inside that simulation, and another sim inside that one, and so on and so on. I think that's called inscription, or encryption, or recursion, or might just be a nested loop. It's not really my field. Anyway, that's more than you need to worry about right now, so congratulations on creating the Hello Universe simulation. Give yourself a pat on the back, and feel free to take a hard-earned day of rest. So today's video is sponsored by Audible, and I was going to suggest using this free book credit at audible.com/explain for something a bit more on topic, but I actually just saw the movie It, and I've been really wanting to read the book until I realized the "You'll Float Too" tagline is because the book's the size of an aircraft carrier. So I went on audible.com/explained, signed up for my own 30-day free trial because I've never used Audible before, and got 45 hours of book for free that I don't have to carry around. So now I can mathematically survive up to 2-day road trips, and I can walk anywhere or ride the bus without having to talk to someone, but someone is still talking to me. So again, if you'd like to take advantage of that, you can sign up for a free 30-day trial and a free book at audible.com/explained, where you can follow the link in the description. In dating and relationships, a red flag is a small thing you notice in someone else's behavior that's symptomatic of a bigger problem. The trouble is that oftentimes a red flag can be hard to pick up on because red flags aren't only what someone does, they can also be what they don't do. And some red flags are certainly worse than others, so I want to start with the more mild ones and move up from there. Assuming you start with a blank white flag, at the lowest level we have red and white flags, which are just small quirks or inconsistencies that aren't bad, just kind of weird. Things like they don't lick the yogurt off the lid, they use Internet Explorer, they hold the door open for you as soon as they see you park your car, or they're apologetic even if something is your fault. Basically, if it can be explained with, "Oh, Canadian," then it's probably in this category. So let's get started on the serious stuff. Low-tier red flags. A low-tier red flag is something that's probably bad, but not necessarily a complete deal breaker. They don't laugh at your jokes. I thought this was just normal, but they say if a girl doesn't laugh at your jokes, she probably isn't very compatible with you. If a girl is really into you though, she'll likely laugh at all your jokes, even if they're not very good. They have a secretive past. This depends a lot on how communicative the person is. They might just be anxious about sharing personal details, but if they have no problem talking about anything and everything except their past, it's either something they don't want you to know, which is pretty bad, or they're a Russian spy, which is pretty hot. Putting you on a pedestal, that is to say they think you're way out of their league. This one's obviously more common for guys to do to girls, but it can go the other way around too. Imagine I was in bed with a girl. Just gonna let that sink in. Imagine I was in bed with a girl and she whispered, "Oh my god, casually explained, tell me again about how many subscribers you have." Of course that would be a huge turn on and I have dreams about that, but it's probably going to be a pretty one-sided relationship. Think of how celebrities almost always date each other even though they could be with any fan they wanted. They have the same last name as you. That's a bad sign. In most places. Alright, mid-tier red flags. These are a bit more serious and are usually harder to overcome or talk about. Tread very carefully if you notice any of these. They're a stripper. On paper it might sound well and good, but when it inevitably doesn't work out, you'll realize that from now on you can only pay for things by card. Worth it. They don't have any independence. That is to say, if they have no interests or hobbies or ambitions in their life, it's likely they'll try to involve themselves in every moment of yours, which will eventually weigh you down and get in the way of your goals. Kind of like Reddit. They trash talk their ex a lot early in the relationship. This is usually an indicator they're still emotionally invested in their previous partner, and it can be very difficult to build a new relationship from the rubble of an old one. Got that from Tumblr. Using ultimatums. These are saying things like, you have to do X or I'm going to do Y. You have to watch out though, because that's like me saying, if you don't subscribe, I'm not going to be your friend, which I would never say. Only think. Alright, next is high tier red flags. These are the ones that are complete deal breakers and are pretty much always non-negotiable. They're married, unless you're into that. They're already pregnant, unless you're into that. They're under 18. This isn't just a red flag, it's a felony, but if you do find yourself attracted to girls who are still in high school, a great way to get over that is to talk to one of them. They treat waitstaff poorly. I think being mean to other people in general is a good sign of how they're going to treat you in the future, and I know that'd be hard to deal with because my self-esteem is based on what other people think of me. If you don't like their friends, people tend to be friends with people similar to them, and if someone surrounds themselves with unsavory individuals, it tells you a lot about that person. Now, after a long time, eventually you might find that after going on date after date or going through relationship after relationship, even just after meeting a lot of new people, you start to think, it really seems like pretty much everyone I meet has something wrong with them. They don't get me, they always have problems that they don't think are problems, I can't connect with them at all, and why can't I find someone who's not such a disaster? This is the maximum tier red flag. It's actually just you. This might sound pretty bad, but in a way, there's nothing wrong with them. They don't get me, they always have problems that they don't think are problems, I can't connect with them at all, and why can't I find someone who's not such a disaster? This is the maximum tier red flag. It's actually just you. This might sound pretty bad, but in a way, realizing that you might be a bit more responsible than you previously thought is the first step to becoming a more wholesome person and having better relationships with other people. And if you have a friend who shared this video with you, now is the moment where you reflect on whether they thought you'd find it funny and interesting, or if they're trying to passive-aggressively tell you something. The first stop in our journey is of course the star at the center of our solar system. The sun. All stars are huge spheres. The first stop in our journey is of course the star at the center of our solar system, the sun. All stars are huge spheres of hydrogen and helium that are constantly undergoing
Don't let the cute and colorful characters fool you. Pokemon battling is one of the most complex, nuanced esports in existence. It's an enormous game of chess with over 700 pieces to choose from. No Pokemon is truly undefeatable every single time. However, there are strategies so devious and infuriatingly smart as to render an opponent's entire team useless in the majority of situations. But before we get started, make sure to click that subscribe button to join our notification squad. Okay, let's dive in. Rattata. Believe it or not, there's almost no Pokemon that's quite as universally hated in the competitive battling scene as Rattata. The small rodent Pokemon doesn't even need to be within the top percentage of Rattatas in order to be a problem for other players. If ever a player sends out a level 1 Rattata during a competitive match, it's a trap. One of the most popular and widely hated strategies in Pokemon is known as Fear. Focus Sash, Endeavor, Quick Attack, Rattata. The strategy works by getting Rattata to hold a Focus Sash, which allows it to survive a powerful KO hit with a single HP point left. Since the Rattata is level 1, any move the opponent uses will reduce Rattata to a single HP. Rattata then uses Endeavor, a move which cuts the opponent's health down to a single HP. Then, the Rattata uses Quick Attack to beat its opponent before it can respond. Hence, Rattata has earned the hatred of many players for being essentially unbeatable. All those who may despise this attack, make sure you are not guilty of using it yourself. Bidoof. At one point, the biggest joke in the Pokemon franchise ultimately ended up being banned from many competitive circles. While this tiny beaver Pokemon might look harmless, it has a special ability which essentially broke the Pokemon metagame. Moody is a tricky to use ability. It will dramatically raise one of a Pokemon's stats randomly each turn, all the while slightly lowering another stat. In essence, this means that Bidoof gets more and more powerful the longer it's kept in play. Particularly problematic is the evasion evasion stat, which, if raised more than once, essentially makes Bidoof untouchable. Almost all attacks will miss, and Bidoof is free to slowly hack its way through an opponent's entire team. In the end, players realized that they could use delaying moves like Protect to keep Bidoof alive long enough to get a random boost to evasion. At this point, the creature becomes unbeatable. This strategy threatened to break the entire Pokemon metagame once upon a time. Thankfully, the Poke Team listened to gamers' pleas, put their heads together, and came up with a fix. However, Bidoof is still considered a real pain to any serious Pokemon player. Shedinja. Shedinja is a curious Pokemon for a number of reasons, not of least for the bizarre steps that are needed to capture one of them. Shedinja has only a single HP point, which will never rise, but its ability Wonder Guard protects it against all moves. That is, except those that would be super effective, such as fire, flying, or ghost moves. Naturally, this means that when going up against many opponents, Shedinja is automatically unbeatable. If an attacking Pokemon doesn't have one of the very few moves that will damage Shedinja, this creature can't be knocked out. How crazy is that? The flip side of this, though, is that if the opponent does have a move that will be super effective, Shedinja will faint instantly. Well, that evens things out, right? There are several tricks to keep Shedinja in play, many of which involve the tricky business of switching abilities that can be achieved through moves like Entrainment or Trance. If Shedinja can gain the Sturdy ability, which is almost impossible to achieve, it will always be left with 1 HP after any hit. This means in most situations it's unkillable, as it only has 1 HP anyway. Togekiss. While not one of the strongest Pokemon in existence, Togekiss has a neat trick. This trick can make it utterly painful for players to defeat. This trick can also turn Togekiss into an unbeatable opponent in the right circumstances. Togekiss' ability, Serene Grace, gives it a higher chance of causing its opponent to flinch and miss a turn of attacking. Some enterprising players have realized it's possible to chain these effects using the move Air Slash. This is because it also boosts the chances of flinching in order to deal out hits the opponent literally cannot respond to. So in the right circumstances, Togekiss can hit an opponent multiple times without being hit in return, as the opposing Pokemon is stuck constantly flinching. But don't start signing up for every tournament out there, because this is not a surefire strategy, mainly because Togekiss stats are not really that fantastic. No matter what you do, Togekiss won't be winning any major competitions anytime soon. But when it comes to beating casual players in the most frustrating way possible, there are certainly worse choices than the final evolution of Togepi. Chansey. Once upon a time, Blissey, the evolved form of Chansey, was considered one of the biggest pains in the competitive battling scene. This was a Pokemon with a phenomenally high natural HP. Also, Blissey had the ability to take hits like a champ, and its healing moves meant it was damn near impossible to take down. Then with the introduction of the Evilite item, Blissey's all disappeared from competitive play, as Chansey took to the foreground instead. The Evilite boosts a Pokemon's defense when they're holding it, that is, as long as the Pokemon has not evolved into its final form. Chansey then has an enormous HP, as well as a large defensive boost, making it incredibly hard to defeat in virtually any circumstance. And to this, the fact Chansey had the ability to learn Minimize to raise evasions, players would rarely be able to manage hitting the Pokemon in the first place. However, on the very rare occasion a move would successfully hit Chansey, the Pokemon has the ability to quickly heal. The Pokemon would use the move Soft Boil to repair damages. This meant that any opposing players had to start all over again. This is definitely a pretty effective and awesome strategy if you are the one delivering it. Pikachu. Obviously, under normal circumstances, Pikachu isn't going to be an unbeatable Pokemon, unless the Pikachu in question is Dwayne Johnson. However, if a trainer uses a very complicated and convoluted strategy to swap Shedinja's Wonder Guard ability onto Pikachu, things will get more interesting. This also goes for any electric type of Pokemon for that matter. As we covered above, Wonder Guard blocks all moves which aren't going to be super effective. Electric type Pokemon only have a single weakness: ground types. A hold item called the Air Balloon temporarily gives an electric type Pokemon immunity to ground type attacks. This is until it is hit by another move and the balloon bursts. So if a player manages through a convoluted process of switching around Wonder Guard to get it onto a Pikachu which has an air balloon, then the Pikachu can't be hit by any move at all. It's probably for the best then Wonder Guard can't be switched around easily in a normal game. The move Trance will allow a Pokemon to gain Wonder Guard, but it's hard to get this into play in a normal battle. This difficulty is the only thing that stops Pikachu from becoming an unbeatable battling machine in most scenarios. Snorlax. Anyone who's ever played Pokemon is probably already well aware of just how much of a pain in the rear Snorlax can be. This Pokemon has high defense and hit points with a signature move, Rest. Rest allows Snorlax to instantly heal up to full health no matter how damaged it might have been. However, afterwards, Snorlax has a major downside which follows. Snorlax goes to sleep for several rounds, rendering him useless. So this is definitely an upside for those worried about this strategy being used over and over. Eventually though, players realized Snorlax could be boosted to be even more difficult to beat in the game. The move Stockpile allows Snorlax to boost its defense and special defense. This means that its already impressive natural stats become even more potent, as if he weren't already too powerful, right? If Snorlax is given a citrus berry to hold, it can also instantly wake up from its sleep after using Rest, although most players prefer to use Leftovers as a hold item instead. That is because it allows Snorlax to regenerate health each round without needing to pause for a nap in the first place. Magnemite. Magnemite is another character who uses a very sneaky variation of the Fear technique to punch high above its weight in competitive battles. The Pokemon naturally has the Sturdy ability, which prevents it from being knocked out from a single attack, leaving it with 1 HP. A Hell Berry will also allow Magnemite to instantly heal. Magnemite is also able to use the move Recycle, which will instantly restore a berry after it has been consumed for health. This means if a player constantly uses the Recycle, Magnemite can't be beaten by straight attack moves. No matter what a player does, it will always be left with 1 HP before healing. But what good is this strategy if Magnemite has to keep using the same move? Luckily, the Pokemon can also learn Toxic and Swagger. Both of these moves can do damage to the opponent periodically as they are poisoned and or confused. Magnemite therefore can set up one of these moves when it first comes into play and constantly heal itself as its opponent beats itself up or succumbs to poison. Now this is one low-down, dirty variation of Magnemite. Magnemite is another character who uses a very sneaky variation of the Fear technique to punch high above its weight in competitive battles. The Pokemon naturally has the Sturdy ability, which prevents it from being knocked out from a single attack, leaving it with 1 HP. A Hell Berry will also allow Magnemite to instantly heal. Magnemite is also able to use the move Recycle, which will instantly restore a berry after it has been consumed for health. This means if a player constantly uses the Recycle, Magnemite can't be beaten by straight attack moves. No matter what a player does, it will always be left with 1 HP before healing. But what good is this strategy if Magnemite has to keep using the same move? Luckily, the Pokemon can also learn Toxic and Swagger. Both of these moves can do damage to the opponent periodically as they are poisoned and or confused. Magnemite therefore can set up one of these moves when it first comes into play and constantly heal itself as its opponent beats itself up or succumbs to poison. Now this is one low-down, dirty variation of an already sneaky strategy. What do you think? Nose Pass. Much like Rattata, Magnemite, and Aron, Nose Pass is capable of using a variation on the Fear strategy so many Pokemon players have come to hate. This Pokemon, though, has an interesting twist on the formula, thanks to a move called Pain Split. The name alone is frightening. Nosepass has sturdy, so it can't be taken out in a single hit. Additionally, Pain Split adds both Pokemon's remaining HP together and divides by 2. This averages out each Pokemon, so the pair have an equal amount of health. If Nosepass is at a low level, this is a cheeky way to instantly drop the opponent's health while healing from every attack the opponent makes. Even if the opponent doesn't attack Nosepass, it will still be able to steal away half of the opposing Pokemon's health. Some moves, such as Sandstorm, will inflict a small amount of damage onto all Pokemon on the field every round. As a rock type though, Nosepass is immune to the effects of Sandstorm. This in turn makes it a useful Pokemon in a variety of situations, and truly impossible for many foes to take down. How many of you out there think you can handle this? Smeargle. While Smeargle's stats are nothing to write home about, the Pokemon does get used in a variety of unique and interesting ways. This is thanks to its special move Sketch, which allows it to learn any move in the entire game by observing another Pokemon using it. This means a lot of the strategies on this list and others list can be used by Smeargle. With Endeavor, it can be used in a similar way to Rattata as a fear Pokemon. It can also learn Breloom's Spore ability to put opponents to sleep effortlessly. Any strategy a player can think of, Smeargle can be used to put it in place. Primarily, Smeargle is not used in competitive battles as an attacker. Its stats aren't great enough to make that happen. Instead, it is used as a tool to set up a more powerful Pokemon with a series of stat boosts. If Smeargle boosts its attack stat and then uses Baton Pass to switch to another Pokemon, that Pokemon will keep all attack stat boosts that Smeargle gained. In essence, this means in the right set of circumstances, Smeargle is not only formidable in its own right, but crucially, it can be used to make any other Pokemon near unbeatable, with a series of otherwise impossible stat boosts. Which one of these Pokemon do you think is the most unbeatable? How many of these strategies have you tried? Ever won any tournaments using them? Let us know in the comments.
If I'm not just cruising, then I'm burning rubber like there is no other. Four-wheel tractions, lights on the spoiler. Smooth road, rough road, let's just roll. Double exhaust, both ready to blow. Rev that gasket, ready, steady, go. Singing to 104.0 seconds. Look at me, what do you reckon? This thing, body line, style lines, blatant. Globally accepted, premier competitive. Engine V10, 5.5 loaded. Push my pedals, watch me explosive. Shooting down the motorway, switching lanes, overtake. Speed out, interface, 6 gears, interchange. Really hard, pick up pace, connoisseur lovers. Hard drivers, come and choose your colours. Hard top, soft top, hatchback covers. Embroidered horses and bonnets and headrests. Rear end engines, articulated noises. Deep note, deep tone, horsepower forces. What I'm talking about here is Porsches, 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 Porsches. Feel the rush, feel the adrenaline when you're flying fast and you're wishing it was permanent. Feel the rush, feel the adrenaline when you're moving past cars in your 911. Feel the rush, feel the adrenaline when you break it fast cause you've seen a 911. Feel the rush, feel the adrenaline, feel the rush, feel the adrenaline. You don't know the things I've seen under the stars and under the breeze. You don't know the places I've been. Warm roads, my past in the trees. Still I'm very far from done. Many valleys still to see. Many counties made for speed. Cruising on countries overseas. One, two, three, four. Ready to blow, ready to go. Ready to kick down, lick down roads. Ready to earn them, burn them, miss. Wanna test this, say you like gear 6. Running for many moves, disappear into the mist. Steady on the glide with the deep groove slicks. Burn them, 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 burn them. Burn them, burn them, burn them, burn them. Under the rain, under the snow, under a storm, I can move, let's go. Under the force, under the horse, I can move on any course, let's go. I can take on anyone, let's roll. I can take on anything, let's go. Burn them, 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 burn them. Singing, linging, that's how I'm zipping. Aerodynamics got me holding when I'm winning. Switching, chipping, that's how I'm kicking. Fast over cars, cause I'm fast now winning. Stepping, ripping, that's what I'm doing. Tearing on the steering while the others try to fit in. Heating, sweating, that's what's given. The difference in the getting, but I kill the competition. Yeah. Yeah. And now, competitors are secret admirers.
was a stop that was not planned. It was not on any agenda. Nobody knew about it at the Trump Hotel, which is on Waikiki Beach. It's not very far from the airport. It's only about 20 minutes away. But the interesting point is that many people here in Hawaii had been talking about the fact that President Trump was not staying at his hotel, which is also a hotel condo residence type of place here on the island, that he was staying at the Ritz-Carlton a little bit further away. So apparently, according to the White House spokesperson, is that he wanted to stop there and thank the employees. They consider it a very successful project, the hotel itself. So he wanted to stop and thank them before heading out. You can see them walking up to Air Force One right now. The president and first lady there waving to the crowd goodbye. It was a very quick whirlwind type trip for the two of them. They landed just yesterday afternoon. It was a one-day stopover trip on their way to Asia. You're right, Elaine. Just before they left to go to the airport, there was a stop that was not planned. It was not on any agenda. Nobody knew about it at the Trump Hotel, which is on Waikiki Beach. It's not very far from the airport. It's only about 20 minutes away. But the interesting point is that many people here in Hawaii had been talking about the fact that President Trump was not staying at his hotel, which is also a hotel condo residence.
All of you shall witness the day that Karnage shall fall.
We stand on the brink of a breakthrough in human evolution. I have dedicated my life to unraveling its secrets. I take risks that others would consider on the brink of a breakthrough in human evolution. I have dedicated my life to unraveling its secrets. I take risks that others would consider to be unwise, for I do not share their caution. Overwatch held back the pace of scientific discovery for decades. They believed my methods were too radical, too controversial, and they tried to silence me. But there were others in the shadows, searching for ways to circumvent their rules. Freed from my shackles, the pace of our research hastened. Together, we delved deeper into those areas forbidden by law, by morality, and by fear. New patrons emerged who possessed an appetite for my discoveries. And with this knowledge, what new world could we build?
The game begins.
No rest for the wicked.
I don't like this game anymore.
We start in 10 seconds. I'm here and obey. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stitches back for more. As fast as can. This way?
The light abandons no man.
Prepare yourselves for battle, heroes.
Very wise.
Ah, well met, warrior.
Huh. You look like you've got some battlefield experience.
The battle begins in 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. To arms! First blood.
Why not?
Exceptionally done.
I am the hammer of justice.
You're going to
I like it. For Lord of... A sound decision. For the silver hand. A sound decision. Still got it. The light is with us. Honor guides us.
The first shrine will be active soon. Steel yourselves, heroes.
I like it.
It is done. Activate the shrine, defeat its guardians, and the Punisher will be ours.
Enemies of the light
Choose a talent.
for the light. I am the hammer of justice.
The angels smile.
restoring your head.
Strike with great vengeance.
Such daring.
Honor
Don't
guides.
stop now!
Admirable.
Precisely as it should be.
Why not?
Appreciate the support.
Still got it. Why not?
Your spirit is strong, mortal.
Even try.
Killing spree.
Light curse you.
I have you covered.
Excellent. We have summoned a frozen Punisher to fight for us.
Let's attack this hole. Agreed.
This happened. I need to return to base.
By my honor.
Enemy slain.
Justice has been delivered. Right curse. Very wise.
Your killing spree is over.
Very wise.
Young again.
For the Alliance. By my honor.
A shrine is gathered.
Precisely as it should be.
And claim the shrine. Show its guardians your resolve.
Still got it. Honor guides.
Your spirit is strong, mortal.
Don't stop now.
I am the hammer of
Hitting you with an onion.
a fine heat.
The angels smile on you. Double kill. An arcane punisher joins us.
Still got it.
Double kill. Killing spree. Such daring. Just fire.
Keep the pressure on. Appreciated.
The angels smile on you. Our Punisher has been defeated.
I'm low on mana. Ha, I like it.
Now's the perfect time for some mercenary friends.
Like curse you. Honor guides me.
I love this part.
Honor. Enemies of the light, beware.
Double kill.
That's it! By time, we will survive.
The shrine gathers power. Prepare to activate it.
All right, let's try that again. I like it.
Defeat the Shrine's Guardians and let loose the Punisher, Karnage.
You're called up. Get in there. I appreciate the support. ضربة معلم.
Triple kill.
No one can stop us.
Quad kill. Mega kill. For Lord. Killing spree.
Right.
Bravo.
That's the way.
A mortal Punisher joins the high heavens in battle.
Still got it.
Sensational!
Let's go, brother!
Triple kill. Well done, mortals.
Go into the light. Now.
For Lordaeron.
Still got it.
Our Punisher has fallen before the demon's forces.
This is your hand. Let's attack this fork.
Take your medicine.
Sound decision.
Now's the perfect time for some mercenary friends.
Enemies of the light, beware.
Much better.
Agreed.
Your killing spree is over.
A sound decision.
Such daring.
A worthy death.
Power gathers within a shrine. Be ready, mortals.
Justice has come. Agreed. Defend our fort.
You're called up. Get in there.
Slain. Double kill. Triple kill.
That's enough out of you.
Try that again.
We have unleashed a frozen Punisher upon our enemy.
Agreed.
You're powered up. Get in there.
One of our forts has fallen. Our enemy has destroyed a fort. I must retreat. You serve the heavens well, heroes. MVP.
The light abandons no man.
I would prepare for your ceaseless battle. If you wish to live, that is.
Still got it.
You ready to lay siege to our enemies?
By the light. Grow a backbone. By my honor.
The temple opens in 10 seconds. 5, 4,
Cowardice
3,
is not a
2,
virtue.
1. Go fight. Do whatever it is you do.
A sound decision. Sound decision. Might curse you. See. Right.
The light of the sun sun grows within. Soon they shall bask in my glory.
Agreed.
My magic flows. Guardians, do not let these mortals approach them.
The light blesses your hand, healer. Agreed. Enemies of the light, beware! Agreed. For the silver hand. Appreciate it. A sound decision. The light. Justice has come. For the light.
Magic subside. Find something else to fight.
It's going to be okay.
Right.
Restoring your health.
The hammer of justice. For the light. Honor guides me. Strike with great vengeance. A sound decision. Honor guides me. I am light curse you. For the light. Defend our point. Light curse you.
The enemy has shattered our fort.
I am the hammer of justice. For Lord of
You have lost. There goes a fort.
That's the way. Light curse you. We should capture this mercenary camp.
I believe that was your fault.
Honor guides me.
My temple's power has been extended. You are stronger than I believed. You have slain
For the Alliance! Why not? Strike with great
choose it.
sound decision.
Enemy slain.
Bravo.
Strike with great
You have some skill. It's true.
I like it. Strike with great vengeance. Still got it. The light blesses your hand.
The light of the south grows. Soon they shall bask in my now the rest.
Honor guides me. I am the hammer of justice. Very wise.
You're going to be okay. Getting
Free.
The light blesses your hand, healer. For the light.
I will keep you here.
Light curse you.
I appreciate the support.
You have stolen enough of my temple's power. Return to your war heroes.
For the light.
We must fall back. For now.
A sound decision. The light is with us.
That's the end of your killing spree.
fight for the good.
My magic flows through the temples. Guardians, do not let me retreat.
I must retreat.
Your foes have annihilated. Your enemy is attacking your core.
I like it. For the silver hand.
That was most interesting.
Defend our core. My curse.
Choose a talent. Defend your core.
Whatever it takes. Agreed. Enemies of the light, beware.
At least it's temporary. Your enemy has destroyed a key. The darkness has taken you.
MVP.
I get quite a few questions about how to make a YouTube channel, so I want to give a bit of a walkthrough of what that whole process looks like, right from struggling to get your first subscriber all the way up to when you start leveraging your fame for tax-deductible vacations. So first of all, you obviously need to be motivated to make a channel in the first place, and I found that the best way to generate that motivation is to start by watching a lot of YouTube videos. Once I'd done that for around 8 years, there's a distinct moment in my mind when I said to myself, wait a second, I think I could do what this successful person does. Why aren't I just as successful? It was because I never commit to any of my long-term goals for more than a few hours. But nevertheless, in that moment, I said, no, I'm actually gonna do it this time. So I scrolled up to the Create a Channel button, wherever it was at the time, and I started the first step, which is giving Google all of your personal information. Now, before you make the channel, YouTube gives you a tip that is very important to first define your target demographic in order to engage your audience properly. So, my target demographic was females between 18 and 25. But important lesson there, you can't always predict the market. Now, the first real step is choosing a name, and if you're like me, whenever a website asks you to choose a username, you don't just throw out the first thing you think of haphazardly. You need to treat it like you're naming your favorite child. A good rule of thumb is to spend as much time on your channel name as you would on a Tinder bio. And this is because they're both supposed to be congruent to your personality and act as a means of better signaling the people that you want into your direction. Alright, of course you need to figure out what kind of videos you're actually going to make, and I think the most important thing here is to play to your strengths. There's a quote among stand-up comedians where they say, you don't get to be a comedian because you like writing jokes, you get to be a comedian because you're funny. Which is why I like YouTube, because people can't make me stop. But the point remains that you have to find the intersection between what you're good at and what you're going to also enjoy doing. It's also very important to keep in mind that what you enjoy creating doesn't entirely overlap with what an audience will enjoy watching. It's like you're making a sex tape. Even now when I'm making videos, I try to be as authentic as possible, but I know not everyone is going to be interested in really niche things that I might really like, so I try to choose more relatable themes that I think are fun, or at least make my more specific videos something palatable to a general audience. So even if I might not enjoy it as much, I keep the chains in latex for my other channel. So once you've made up your mind and get all the groundwork out of the way, it's time to make some content. And your first video is the most important because it's the first time that your expectations and self-esteem collide with reality. And when you upload a video and then wake up the next morning and see 12 views and 1 dislike, you really have to look deep down inside and ask yourself, am I going to fight through this and try to improve my craft, or am I going to be a wiener and cry about it? I like to think that I'm living proof that you can do both. So now we get to where most of the struggle is, which is getting those viewers. The most common question I get is from people sending me their first few videos and saying, I don't get it, how do I get more subscribers? And I usually give them a simple 2-step formula to increase their audience. Step 1 is make good content, and step 2 is marketing. And they're always like, okay, how do I do marketing? And my response is usually, I don't think you need to worry about that yet. Got him. So, truth be told, I think the best way to grow an audience is to post on social media sites, content aggregators like Reddit, or to get your content featured by big blogs, websites, and other channels. At first you're going to have to contact them, but if it goes well, hopefully they'll be waiting for your next video. Once your channel gets going, it's just a matter of making good content on a consistent-ish basis, but keep in mind that there is sometimes a discovery period where channels experience a huge surge of growth for a few months, and it's easy to get overexcited and think it's going to last forever. So you might be tempted to blow all your ad money on a big trip to Vegas, but what you really need to do is spend that extra bit of time and effort to record the whole thing so you can publish it and then write it off as a business expense. Now, shortly after this discovery period, after people are pretty familiar with who you are and what you do, the boom is over, the snowball effect slows down, and you start to plateau a little bit. At this point, it's time to panic and do one or more of the following. Sell out, make vlogs, or do a face and/or boob reveal. This will be a brief shot of adrenaline into your now questionable YouTube career, but if you play your cards right, you can probably ride that wave for another 6 months to a year. This is about when you run out of ideas and start losing your audience. Your subscriber count might keep going up, but at a rate that matches the amount of people abandoning their accounts. So this is a critical point in the life of your channel, and from studying some of the really big ones, I've learned you have 2 options. improve your skills and make some fresh new content with the same style and personality that earned you your audience in the first place, or get exposed for being a huge tool and lose everything you had. Now, if things go south, you have a hard decision of whether or not you try to salvage what little audience you have left, or abandon ship completely and get an actual job. I'm planning on narrating audiobooks. First place, or get exposed for being a huge tool and lose everything you had. Now, if things go south, you have a hard decision of whether or not you try to salvage what little audience you have left, or abandon ship completely and get an actual job. I'm planning on narrating audiobooks and working on my other channel. But if you can keep it together, there's a good chance you can be the next big thing and branch out into TV, film, business, or just hang out with the household celebrities that got famous on YouTube, like... So get out there and start your channel. Just make sure that when you've made it big, and I've long since faded into irrelevance a few weeks from now, that you'll remember everything I did for you. Just give me a shout out when you're on Ellen.
Cassidy 1205, that's a lot of numbers now, asks, Shadow, what do you think about Sarnado?
One word, Cassidy. No.
Cassidy 1205, that's a lot of numbers now, asks, Shadow, what do you think? That's a lot of numbers now. Cassidy 1205, that's a lot of numbers now. Asks, Shadow, what do you think about Sarnado? Cassidy 1205, that's a lot of numbers now. Asks, Shadow, what do you think about Sarnado?
One word, Cassidy. No. Well, this is a good one. Joanna Whiterose asks, to Sonic, I have a challenge for you. Tell me how much you like Amy and what you like in her.
Oh, yeah, Sonic. Tell us what you like about that other hedgehog, Amy.
Oh, no, guys, can we just not do this right now? I mean, there's lots of other questions. Like
What, Sonic? Are you embarrassed?
He's totally embarrassed. Oh, I just got a message here from Infinite. It's a file called Sonado.
No, don't open that!
This is a good one. Joanna Whiterose asks, to Sonic, I have a challenge for you. Tell me how much you like Amy and what you like in her.
Oh, yeah, Sonic. Tell us what you like about that other hedgehog, Amy.
Oh, no, guys, can we just not do this right now? I mean, there's lots of other questions.
What, Sonic? Are you embarrassed?
He's totally embarrassed. Oh, I just got a message here from Infinite. It's a file called Sonado.
No, don't open that!
At Frosted Oreo asks, Eggman, have you ever considered accepting interns? Asking as a desperate college student. That's not depressing at all.
I've got a job description.
College student. Asking as a desperate college student. That's not depressing at all.
I've got a job description here for an intern at the Eggman Empire lot in North Hollywood.
Well, let's see what it says. Entry-level position. Requires 5 to 10 years.
An intern at the Eggman Empire lot in North Hollywood.
Well, let's see what it says. Entry-level position. Requires 5 to 10 years experience. Oh, because that makes sense.
Good luck, millennials. At Frosted Oreo asks, Eggman, have you ever considered accepting interns? Asking as a desperate college student. That's not depressing at all.
I've got a job description here for an intern at the Eggman Empire lot in North Hollywood.
Well, let's see what it says. Entry-level position. Requires 5 to 10 years experience. Oh, because that makes sense.
Good luck, millennials.